Ali's first posting as an assistant commissioner brought him to a dusty district tucked between the city's edge and the rural heartland, far from the comfort of marble floors and city cafes. He found himself walking through schools without roofs and villages without water. But he didn't flinch. He remembered his own beginnings, the leaking ceiling above his study mat, the nights without electricity, and his mother's silent sacrifices. He rolled up his sleeves. His first order of action was simple but profound: build libraries. Not grand institutions, but small, sturdy, sunlit spaces with enough books to spark a child's imagination. You don't fix poverty with speeches, he once told his team. You fight it with pages and pencils. He initiated a scholarship fund in his mother's name, the Nyla Foundation, which funded the education of Maid's children across the district. When local media covered the initiative, Ali deflected credit. "This isn't charity," he said. "It's repayment." Nyla visited occasionally. She no longer carried herself as a maid, but neither did she pretend to be anything she wasn't. She'd sit in school courtyard with children, listening to their stories, sometimes sharing her own. To them, she wasn't Commissioner Saab Gyami. She was hope in human form. Armand, now semi-retired, often visited too. He marveled not just at what Ali had become, but how he had stayed grounded. The old businessman found peace not in his balance sheets, but in watching the seeds he had planted bloom in unexpected, beautiful ways. At one award ceremony, Ali was asked what motivated him. His answer was simple. "I was lucky," he said. "Someone saw me not as a poor boy, but as potential." That one belief changed everything. The applause was thunderous, but the moment remained quiet in his heart, because he knew this wasn't the end of his story. It was just the beginning of someone else's. The celebration was quiet, dignified. No press conferences, no garlands or social media fanfare. Just a dinner at Armand's home. The same home where a young boy once whispered dreams of becoming an officer. Now, that dream sat at his table, dressed in a tailored suit, speaking with the ease and confidence of a man who had earned every inch of his journey. Nyla, seated beside her son, wore a modest sari and the proud smile of a mother who had conquered the impossible. She refused to move out of the servant quarters, despite Ali's insistence. "Let others know where I came from," she told him, "so they know what's possible." Ali continued to visit Armand regularly, not as a ward now, but as a son. Their conversations grew broader: policy, governance, even philosophy. Armand had stopped treating him like a protege and started treating him like an equal. What had started as charity matured into mentorship and now blossomed into kinship. It was during one of those evenings that Ariba returned. Armand's daughter, independent and idealistic, had been away pursuing a degree in social development. When she met Ali for the first time, it wasn't through formal introductions. She overheard him speaking to her father about rural education and decided to join the conversation. What followed was weeks of collaboration. Site visits, strategy meetings, long discussions about impact. Ariba admired Ali's clarity and calm. Ali respected her boldness and heart. Slowly, admiration turned into interest, and interest deepened into something more. Their relationship was not marked by grand gestures, but by shared purpose and quiet understanding. One evening, Ariba approached her father. "I want to marry him," she said simply. Armand looked up, and for a moment, the weight of his own journey returned. Then he smiled, not just with his lips, but with a heart that knew this was right. The wedding was held on the terrace of Armand's mansion. Simple, graceful, and full of emotion. Nyla stood beside Armand as a co-host. Guests didn't see a maid and a millionaire. They saw two parents beaming with pride. As Ali placed a ring on Ariba's finger, Armand gave a short speech. "This union isn't just of two people," he said. "It's of two journeys, two acts of faith. I didn't raise a commissioner. I was raised by one." Ali's admission into the elite Northbridge Academy was more than a change in school. It was a change in atmosphere, expectations, and challenges. Among students who arrived in chauffeur-driven cars and carried gadgets worth more than Nyla's monthly income, Ali stood out, not by what he had, but by how he carried himself, reserved but resolute. He quickly developed a reputation for being the brightest student in class. Armand made sure Ali lacked nothing. A tutor came every evening. Stationery, books, even a personal computer were provided without question. But Armand's involvement didn't stop at material needs. He attended parent-teacher meetings, encouraged Ollie to participate in debates, and discussed current affairs with him over weekend dinners. For Ollie, these moments were invaluable. He had found in Armand not just a sponsor, but a mentor, someone who treated him not as a beneficiary, but as a future leader. Nyla watched the transformation with quiet awe. She still insisted on completing her duties at the Khan residence, but now did so with a lightness in her step. Pride gleamed in her eyes when she spoke of Ollie, though she rarely did. Let his actions speak for him, she'd say, her voice firm with conviction. The years passed. Ollie moved from middle school to high school, then to university, always ranking among the top. His journey was not without hurdles. Occasional sneers from elitist classmates, the burden of expectations, the internal struggle of straddling two worlds. But each time he stumbled, he rose stronger. Armand was always there, not to cushion his fall, but to steady his path. It was during his final year at university that Ollie declared his intention to sit for the civil services exam. The room fell silent. Armand, seated across from him, gave a slow nod. "It will be the hardest thing you've ever done," he said. "I know," Ollie replied, "but I've been preparing for it my whole life." And so began the most intense chapter of his journey. 12-hour study days, mock interviews, and endless revision. Ollie withdrew from distractions and immersed himself in preparation. Armand transformed one of his spare rooms into a study space, stocked with resources and completely soundproof. Even the household staff adjusted their routines to accommodate Ollie's schedule. When the exam day arrived, Ollie walked out of the house in a crisp white kurta, his expression calm but determined. Nyla whispered a silent prayer, while Armand simply placed a hand on his shoulder, a silent gesture of belief. The results came 3 months later. The moment Nyla saw Ali's name in the top ranks, she didn't cry or scream. She just closed her eyes and whispered, "Shakar Hai." Armand, on the other hand, read the results in silence. Then, slowly, he stood and walked to the window, the same one where he had watched Ollie leave for school years ago. This time, he wasn't watching the city. He was seeing the future. The boy who once sat on the floor of his living room with a torn science book had become a commissioner in the heart of a thriving metropolis, where glass towers kissed the clouds and luxury cars raced past street vendors. Two lives unfolded in quiet opposition. On one side stood Armand Khan, a revered name in real estate, a man whose fortune had grown from relentless ambition and unshakable grit. His mansion, a marvel of modern design, reflected the magnitude of his achievements. On the other, in the shadows of the city's glittering skyline, lived Nyla, a widowed maid striving to secure a future for her only son, Ollie. Armand's life was ruled by precision and purpose. Deals were struck over imported whiskey, and meetings began not a minute late. He trusted few, smiled rarely, and worked tirelessly. But beneath the polished surface of success, there was a void, a loneliness that even his wealth couldn't mask. Nyla had been employed at the Khan residence for over 7 years. She arrived early each morning, her hands calloused but spirit intact. Dressed in a faded dupatta and worn sandals, she moved about the house like a ghost, visible yet unnoticed. Her son, Ollie, was her only joy, a quiet boy with sharp eyes and a heart full of dreams far larger than his modest world. Armand first noticed Ollie during a school holiday. The boy sat in the corner of the living room, knees tucked under him, intently reading a dog-eared textbook. Unlike most children of household help, Ollie wasn't running around or glued to a screen. He was focused, disciplined. There was a quiet dignity about him, something that piqued Armand's curiosity. "What are you reading?" Armand asked, lowering himself onto a leather armchair. Ollie stood quickly and held up the book. "It's my science textbook, sir. I want to be an officer someday." "An officer?" Armand repeated, intrigued. "A commissioner, actually," Ollie clarified, his voice unwavering. "To serve and protect, like in the news stories." There was no arrogance in his tone, only certainty, the kind of confidence money couldn't buy. Armand nodded, saying nothing, but the image of the boy lingered long after they left the room. That night, Armand sat alone in his study, the city lights flickering outside his window. He thought of his own childhood, of hunger, of cold nights, of being dismissed as unworthy. Ollie reminded him of that version of himself, back when dreams were the only currency he owned. The next day, he called Nyla into his office. She stood before him, nervous and hesitant. "Your son," he said, tapping his desk lightly. "He's ambitious." Nyla looked down, unsure if she should apologize or agree. "I want to help," Armand continued. "His education, everything he needs. I'll take care of it." Tears welled in Nyla's eyes. For a moment, words escaped her. She dropped to her knees, but Armand quickly stepped forward and lifted her by the shoulders. "Don't thank me," he said gently. "Thank him for making me believe again." That conversation marked the beginning of a new chapter, not just for Ollie, but for Armand and Nyla as well. Ollie was soon enrolled in one of the city's best private schools. His uniform was crisp, his bag new, and for the first time in his life, he had his own desk. Armand began to take an active interest in the boy's progress. He'd check his report cards, discuss world affairs over dinner, and occasionally quiz him on mathematics. What started as charity slowly transformed into mentorship. Armand found himself anticipating Ali's visits, curious about his thoughts, amused by his questions. As for Ali, he never took the privilege for granted. He rose before dawn, studied late into the night, and showed a maturity well beyond his years. He respected Armand deeply, but never lost the humility his mother had instilled in him. The household, once cold and clinical, began to change subtly. Laughter returned to its halls, and the silence at mealtimes gave way to conversation. Even the staff noticed a shift, the way Armand paused at the door to listen to Ollie, or how he smiled more easily when the boy was around. Still, the road ahead was long. Ollie's ambition to become a commissioner wasn't just a childhood fantasy. It was a mountain of effort waiting to be climbed. Armand knew the odds. Children from elite schools failed the civil services exam every year. But he also knew something else. Belief, when matched with hard work, had the power to bend reality. As the summer ended and Ollie prepared for his new academic year, Armand stood by the window, watching him leave for school. In that moment, something shifted, not in the city outside, but within him. He wasn't just investing in a child's education. He was rewriting a legacy.